37 million Americans woke up this morning under snow, ice, or an active winter storm warning, and here's the thing, most of them still don't know what's coming next. Right now, as you're watching this, a massive pattern flip is already in motion, and it's going to completely rewrite the weather picture for this entire country within the next 72 hours. And here's the number that genuinely stopped me in my tracks this morning: a 60-degree temperature gap, not between the coasts. Not between seasons, but between American cities sitting just a few hundred miles apart, happening right now, today, as we speak. 3 things you need to know before we dive in. 1, winter is not done, not by a long shot. 2, severe weather season is about to make a comeback you did not see coming. And 3, the next 72 hours are going to look very different depending on where you live. So, real quick before we get into the maps, drop your city in the comments right now, because I read every single one. I respond personally throughout the day, and the city that gets the most requests is going to get its own dedicated segment in tomorrow's forecast. That's not just something I say I did it yesterday, I'm doing it today, and I'll be doing it again tomorrow because, frankly, a generic national forecast doesn't do you much good if you're trying to figure out whether to cancel your Monday morning plans. All right, let's get into it, and let's start where the weather is downright brutal right now, because the northern Midwest this morning is not playing around. Folks, Minneapolis is sitting at 33 degrees Fahrenheit with wind chills already down to minus 12 degrees Fahrenheit, and I don't know about y'all, but minus 12 on your face when you step outside is the kind of cold that makes you question your life decisions in a hurry. Fargo. North Dakota is even worse this morning, wind chills at minus 15 degrees Fahrenheit, barely nudging 29 degrees Fahrenheit for a high all day, and another ½ inch of snow coming down through the afternoon on top of what's already piled up out there. St. Paul is locked in right alongside Minneapolis at 33 over 19 degrees Fahrenheit. The snowpack on the ground isn't budging. The wind chill is sitting around minus 10 degrees Fahrenheit. And honestly, if you're up in that region, staying indoors today is just the smart call. Now, and this is where the story starts getting really interesting, because while you've got those folks in Minnesota bundled up in their warmest gear, jump just a few states to the south and you're in a completely different America. Dallas is touching 69 degrees Fahrenheit today with barely a cloud in the sky. Fort Worth is at 70 degrees Fahrenheit with low humidity and a nice gentle south breeze that's not winter weather. That's a pretty decent Tuesday afternoon in April. Phoenix is at 76 degrees Fahrenheit. Las Vegas is at 69 degrees Fahrenheit. San Antonio is sitting at a downright pleasant 75 degrees Fahrenheit right now, while 800 miles north. People in Minneapolis are dealing with whiteout conditions and minus 12 wind chills. That 60-degree wall I mentioned at the top, that gap between the frozen north and the warm south, that is the atmospheric battleground. And it is exactly the kind of setup that gets meteorologists like me genuinely fired up, because that tension doesn't just sit there quietly. I've been doing this a long time. And I want to be straight with you, the combination of what's happening right now across the northern plains with what's building across the Gulf, that's the kind of setup that writes weather history. And we're watching it develop in real time. So, let me walk you through this step by step, because this isn't just one event. It's a 3-act pattern change that unfolds over the next week. And each act hits a different part of the country in a very different way. Act 1 is already rolling, and it's this Alberta Clipper system pushing light to moderate snow through the Great Lakes and northern plains right now. Moving faster than a lot of people realize and already creating some dicey road conditions. Detroit is seeing minus 8 degrees Fahrenheit wind chills today with 0.3 inches of snow on the ground and more coming. And look, if you've got family over there, tell them to give themselves extra time on the roads today, because this is the sneaky kind of system that catches people off guard. Grand Rapids is dealing with the same punch, 35 to 23 degrees Fahrenheit. Wind chills dropping to minus 3 degrees Fahrenheit, and 0.4 inches of snow already falling today alone, and with those lake effect bands right there off Lake Michigan. The total could stack up a whole lot higher before this thing is done. Cleveland, Toledo, Columbus. You're all in that belt of cold and clouds right now, picking up light snow. And I know you folks up in the Great Lakes region are tough as nails when it comes to winter weather, but give yourself extra time out there today. It's slicker than it looks. Now here's where Act 1 starts getting complicated. And I want you to pay close attention if you're in Indiana, Ohio, or Kentucky, because what starts as a straightforward snow event has the potential to turn into something a lot more unpredictable by Sunday night. as this clipper pushes east and picks up Gulf moisture. The freezing line becomes the whole ball game, and right now, the European and American models are not agreeing on exactly where that freezing line sets up across the Ohio Valley. And that disagreement matters a lot for your specific forecast. Indianapolis is already at 38 degrees Fahrenheit today with light snow and more possible tonight, and if you're in central Indiana, here's my honest advice: don't assume Monday morning is going to be a normal commute, because Sunday night into Monday is your window to watch very carefully. Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, Louisville, y'all are sitting right on that knife edge between snow, sleet, and freezing rain as this thing tracks through Monday. And that's exactly the kind of setup that surprises drivers who figured the weather app said light precipitation and figured they were fine. All right, hold on right there. Because before we go any further into the Midwest timeline, I need to shift to the Northeast, because what's happening up there right now is a whole separate story. And it's one that's going to tie back into everything we're talking about in a big way. Boston, New York, Philadelphia. These cities are all still in recovery mode from the nor'easter that absolutely buried this region earlier this week, and the cleanup is nowhere near finished. Boston is sitting on 25 plus inches of accumulated snow from that blizzard temperatures today at 41 over 29 degrees Fahrenheit with a cold wind off the coast, and I'll tell you, 25 inches on the ground in a city like Boston creates problems that don't just disappear because the sun came out. New York City is at 43 over 31 degrees Fahrenheit. The snow is finally starting to melt as temps creep just above freezing, but with 20 plus inches piled up on sidewalks, rooftops, and tree branches, that meltwater is creating its own hazards, and the streets are still a mess. Make no mistake. Philadelphia, Baltimore, Washington, D.C., same deal across the board, blizzard snow melting slowly. Temperatures just hovering around that 32-degree mark. Light rain mixing in today. And every one of those cities still dealing with the aftermath of what was a genuinely historic storm. And Providence, Rhode Island, good Lord, 37 plus inches on the ground. And I cannot stress enough how serious that snowpack is for flooding risk once the temperatures jump later next week. But I'll get to that in a minute, because that is a story all by itself. But here's the part that caught my attention this morning, and honestly, this is the thing that nobody in the Northeast is fully prepared for yet, because the region barely has time to dig out before the next winter weather system starts eyeing the door. The European model, and look, the Euro has been pretty darn reliable this season, is trending toward a significant ice and snow threat for the Mid-Atlantic and New England as we head into Tuesday, March 3rd. And here's why that Tuesday date matters so much more than it might sound when you've already got 20 to 37 inches of existing snowpack on the ground and you drop even a quarter inch of ice on top of that. You are looking at a genuinely dangerous situation for power lines and tree limbs. We're talking a corridor from Pennsylvania up through New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, and Massachusetts, all potentially in the crosshairs of that wintry mix to snow event on top of ground that is already saturated and icy from the blizzard. Allentown, Harrisburg, Scranton, keep Tuesday circled on your calendar, because if the models verify the way they're trending, you could be looking at significant ice accumulation before the system eventually flips to snow for the higher elevations inland. Albany, Syracuse, Rochester, the lake effect machine is always lurking for you folks, and this pattern is still cold enough to support additional snow bands through the weekend. So don't put that snow shovel away just yet. Buffalo is already picking up 0.1 inches today with 15 miles per hour winds off the lake, and those of you who live up there, you know better than anyone how fast a lake effect band can turn a cloudy afternoon into a full-on whiteout in about 20 minutes flat. Okay, now I need to stop right here, because I want to make sure I'm giving this next piece the attention it deserves, because what's building on the other end of this country right now is not just a weather story, it is the story for the next 10 days. I've been tracking patterns for a long time, and when the Climate Prediction Center puts out a high confidence signal for above average temperatures across the entire lower 48 from March 4th through the 12th, that's not a casual forecast. That is a significant statement. What we're watching right now is the jet stream getting ready to make one of the most dramatic seasonal flips I've seen for this time of year, shifting from that southward dipping cold air delivery mode it's been in all February, to lifting far to the north and opening the floodgates for Gulf moisture. And when that flip kicks in, we're talking Tuesday into Wednesday of next week, the severe weather door doesn't just crack open a little bit, it swings wide open across the central and southern plains. And we could be talking about a multi-day severe weather outbreak. The Storm Prediction Center has already flagged a 15% risk of severe weather for Wednesday into Thursday, and folks, when the SPC is highlighting a threat 6 or 7 days out, they're not just throwing darts at a board, that signal means something. Now let me explain why that severe weather risk is showing up, because I think it helps to understand what's actually going on in the atmosphere, rather than just throwing scary numbers at you. Think of it this way, that deep trough digging down along the west coast right now, the same one that's been soaking Seattle with 0.4 inches of rain today and drenching Portland with 0.5 inches, that's essentially a highway for storm systems to race eastward across the Rockies. When those systems come over the mountains and hit the warm, moist Gulf air that's already surging north across Texas and Oklahoma, the atmosphere goes from 0 to 100 real fast. And that's exactly how you get large hail, damaging winds, and tornado development. Oklahoma City is already trending warmer today at 59 degrees Fahrenheit with a south wind, and that south wind right there is your early signal that the Gulf moisture pump is already getting switched on. Ahead of schedule if you ask me. Tulsa is at 53 degrees Fahrenheit and gradually warming. Kansas City is at 43 degrees Fahrenheit, but with the pattern flip coming. These plain cities are going to flip from late winter to early spring severe weather mode in what is going to feel like the blink of an eye. And here's something I want every single person watching in tornado country to hear clearly this setup. The kind where winter transitions hard and fast into a warm Gulf pattern. This is historically when the most dangerous early season severe weather outbreaks happen. We are not there yet. And I want to be careful not to ring the alarm bell too early, but I'd be doing you a disservice if I didn't tell you right now to start thinking about your severe weather plan for the second week of March, because this pattern is real. All right, quick check-in with you all. I've got cities coming in from the comments already, and I see a ton of requests from folks in Tennessee and the Carolinas. So let me give you that update right now because you deserve some specific information too. Nashville is at 49 degrees Fahrenheit today with a little bit of rain moving through. And look, Nashville, you've had a tough winter, you've dealt with ice, you've dealt with cold snaps, but what's coming for you next week is a totally different vibe. And honestly, it might be a welcome change. Charlotte is at 53 degrees Fahrenheit today with some cloud cover and light rain. Raleigh is at 49 degrees Fahrenheit. And if you're in the Carolinas, your critical window to watch is Monday into Tuesday, because the models are hinting at a potential ice or snow event before that warmth really settles in. The European model is actually showing a setup that could bring some ice accumulation as far south as South Carolina by early Tuesday. And if you've lived in the Carolinas long enough, you know that even a quarter inch of ice down there is enough to shut everything down for a day. Charleston is at a pleasant 59 degrees Fahrenheit today with some light rain, but don't let that warmth give you a false sense of security for Monday, because the cold air is going to make one more push before this pattern finally gives it up and turns the page to spring. Knoxville is at 49 degrees Fahrenheit. Huntsville, Alabama at 55 degrees Fahrenheit with some light rain. Birmingham at 57 degrees Fahrenheit. All of you in that Tennessee Valley and northern Alabama corridor are going to want to pay close attention to the Monday evening and Tuesday morning forecast, because that's your window. And Memphis sitting at 53 degrees Fahrenheit today, you're right in that transition zone where the difference between a rain event and an ice event Monday night comes down to whether the cold air holds on just a little bit longer. And right now, I can't give you a definitive answer on that yet, but we're watching it closely. Okay. Now here's a question I get every year about this time, and I want to address it head on because a bunch of you have been asking in the comments about the flooding risk. And I think this is genuinely the most underappreciated part of the story right now. Think about this. You've got 25 inches of snow on the ground in Boston, 20 plus in New York, 18 in Philadelphia, and a jaw-dropping 37 plus inches piled up in Providence, Rhode Island. And then you're about to drop temperatures 15 to 20 degrees above average on top of all of that. What happens when you melt that much snow in a short period of time? Rivers rise, storm drains back up, basements flood, low-lying areas that haven't seen a problem all winter suddenly become a real hazard, and it happens faster than most people expect. Hartford, Bridgeport, New Haven in Connecticut. You're all still dealing with blizzard aftermath right now at around 41 to 43 degrees Fahrenheit with some light rain, but start thinking now about your flood-prone areas, because that meltwater conversation is coming for you within the week. Worcester, Albany, Concord, New Hampshire, still cold. Still some flurries possible today. Significant snowpack on the ground, and when that warmth arrives next week, the snowmelt is going to be fast and it is going to be a lot of water moving very quickly. Now, here's something that I genuinely did not expect to be talking about at the end of February, but the 8 to 14-day temperature outlook, running from March 6th all the way through the 12th, is showing high confidence in above-average temperatures for the entire eastern United States. High confidence. Entire eastern U.S. March 6th through 12th. I want to let that sink in for a second because in my experience, when the Climate Prediction Center uses the words high confidence on a 10-day temperature outlook, you can take that one to the bank. What that means practically for you if you are in New England, the Mid-Atlantic, or anywhere in the Ohio Valley, start thinking about your sump pump. Clear your gutters if you can. And keep an eye on anything near a stream or low-lying area, because snowmelt plus March rain is a flood recipe. All right. I want to make sure I'm covering the whole country here, so let's swing out to the southeast for a minute, because the Gulf Coast is already telling us everything we need to know about what's coming for the rest of the country. Miami is at 79 degrees Fahrenheit today with 0.3 inches of rain. Tampa at 77 degrees Fahrenheit with afternoon showers. New Orleans at 69 degrees Fahrenheit picking up 0.4 inches, and all that Gulf moisture pumping north right now. That is the fuel for the severe weather machine that's going to fire up next week. Baton Rouge is at 69 degrees Fahrenheit today. Jackson, Mississippi at 63 degrees Fahrenheit with some light rain. Atlanta at 55 degrees Fahrenheit with showers, and the further north that Gulf moisture pushes. The more explosive the atmosphere becomes when it finally collides with any remaining cold air from the north. Here's how I like to explain it to folks. Imagine you've got a cold cast iron skillet, and you pour hot water into it. That reaction is exactly what happens when warm Gulf air slams into cold Arctic air. And the bigger the temperature difference, the more violent the reaction. And right now, we have a 60-degree temperature difference across this country. So you do the math on how energetic that atmospheric collision is going to be when these two air masses finally go toe-to-toe across the Central Plains next week. That's why I keep coming back to that 60-degree number, because it's not just an interesting statistic. It's the single best indicator of how much energy is available in the atmosphere right now. And that energy has to go somewhere. All right, let me take a quick breath here and give a shout out to the folks in Florida, because I see you in the comments and y'all are out here living your best life right now. And honestly, good for you. Miami at 79 degrees Fahrenheit. Orlando at 79 degrees Fahrenheit with some afternoon showers. Tampa at 77 degrees Fahrenheit. Jacksonville at 72 degrees Fahrenheit. And our friends over in Honolulu at 81 degrees Fahrenheit with a gentle trade wind, while the northern Midwest is in the negatives. Florida is doing Florida things, and I can't be mad at it. But Florida folks, don't get too comfortable just yet, because as that Gulf moisture ramps up through the week, your rainfall chances are going to increase. And by the time we get deeper into March, you could be seeing some very heavy rainfall events and some significant flooding in low-lying areas. Now, I want to make a hard right turn and head out west, because the West Coast story right now is absolutely critical to understanding everything else we've been talking about. And most people are sleeping on it. Seattle is picking up 0.4 inches of rain today with 13 miles per hour winds. Portland is at 0.5 inches. And this Pacific moisture tap that's been running all week is about to turn up dramatically over the next 5 to 7 days. That deep trough digging down the West Coast, the one that's keeping Washington and Oregon wet and cool, that is the same atmospheric feature that's going to be launching storm systems eastward across the Rockies like a slingshot. And those systems are what's going to fuel the severe weather next week. So, when you see rain in Seattle today, just know that the energy behind that rain is the same energy that's going to show up as tornado and hail potential across the plains by next Wednesday and Thursday. The atmosphere is one connected system. And what happens on the West Coast never stays on the West Coast. It's on. Salt Lake City is at a cold 49 over 29 degrees Fahrenheit today, dry and sunny for now, but the mountain snowpack is going to be building significantly as this Pacific flow increases through the weekend. And the skiing up at the resorts is going to be absolutely phenomenal by next week. So that's your silver lining. Boise and Spokane are both in that cool. Partly cloudy mode today, and the Pacific Northwest mountain ranges are going to see some serious accumulation over the next several days as these storm systems stack up off the coast and push inland one after another. Out in California, and this is actually some genuinely good news in a forecast that's been a little heavy on serious stuff, the Sierra Nevada is looking at some very significant snowfall accumulation over the next week, which is great news for California's water supply heading into spring. Los Angeles is gorgeous today at 69 degrees Fahrenheit. San Diego at 67 degrees Fahrenheit. The Bay Area is at a breezy 63 degrees Fahrenheit with some morning marine layer, and while Southern California is enjoying that classic mild winter vibe, Northern California is about to get the rainfall it has been genuinely needing. Sacramento at 65 degrees Fahrenheit. Fresno at 67 degrees Fahrenheit today, both comfortable and pleasant right now, but by this time next week. The Sacramento Valley and the northern foothills are going to be watching some significant Pacific storms push through. And those mountain passes are going to require some serious respect. Okay, now, here's the moment in the forecast where I want to come back around to something I said at the very beginning, because the Midwest and Great Plains story has a second chapter that I haven't fully told you yet. And it's a big one. While everyone's focused on the Sunday-Monday winter storm system, and rightfully so, because that is a real and immediate concern, what comes right behind it by the middle of next week is going to be a completely different kind of weather problem for the same region. Omaha is dealing with 0.4 inches of snow today and bone-chilling -2 degrees Fahrenheit wind chills. But folks, by this time next week, Omaha could realistically be 35 to 40 degrees warmer and under a severe thunderstorm watch instead of a winter weather advisory. That kind of flip from below zero wind chills to severe thunderstorm territory in less than 7 days, that's not just unusual. That's the kind of atmospheric whiplash that I genuinely haven't seen too many times in all my years of tracking these patterns. Wichita is at 47 degrees Fahrenheit today, but dealing with brutal 22 miles per hour winds. Des Moines is at 39 degrees Fahrenheit with -2 degrees Fahrenheit wind chills. St. Louis at 43 degrees Fahrenheit. Kansas City at 43 degrees Fahrenheit. And all of these Missouri and Kansas River Valley cities are going to be right in the crosshairs of that transition. Both the snow on Sunday and the severe weather next week. And speaking of the Great Lakes, let me give a specific shout out to Chicago, because I know there are a lot of Chicago folks in the comments and you guys have had a rough February, but here's your honest outlook. Chicago is at 37 degrees Fahrenheit today with some flurries and a biting wind chill around -2 degrees Fahrenheit. And look, that's a pretty typical late February Chicago day. You all know the drill by now, but Sunday night into Monday is when you need to pay attention, because that wintry mix potential is real for the metro area. Milwaukee is at 35 degrees Fahrenheit, dealing with wind chills of 8 degrees Fahrenheit and some flurries. Madison, Wisconsin at 35 over 23 degrees Fahrenheit with more snow coming. And if you're in that Wisconsin corridor, Sunday night is your key window to watch for slick spots that are going to make Monday morning feel a whole lot longer than it needs to be. Fort Wayne, Indiana. Lansing, Michigan. Toledo, Ohio, all of you are sitting in that same cold belt today, and you're all going to face that same wintry mix question Sunday night into Monday morning. So do yourself a favor and plan the commute around it rather than hoping for the best. Cincinnati at 41 degrees Fahrenheit with light flurries today. Dayton at 39 degrees Fahrenheit. Lexington at 43 degrees Fahrenheit. The Ohio Valley is going to be one of the trickiest forecast areas going into Monday. And the difference between a manageable snow event and a messy ice event is going to be a matter of just a degree or two along the freezing line. And that's the honest truth about forecasting a setup like this, even with all the technology we have. Even with the European model and the American model both running multiple times a day, a 1 or 2 degree difference in where that freezing line sets up changes everything for individual cities. And we simply won't know for certain until we're about 24 hours out. All right, I know we've covered a lot of ground today, and I appreciate you sticking with me, because there is genuinely a lot happening all at once right now. So let me bring this all together with the clearest action plan I can give you based on where you live. If you're in the northern Midwest, Minnesota, Wisconsin, the Dakotas, northern Michigan, your immediate concern is the cold that's already here today. But Sunday into Monday is your secondary concern for additional snow, and you're probably the region least surprised by any of this. So keep doing what you do. If you're in the Ohio Valley Corridor, Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, Sunday night into Monday morning is your critical window. The wintry mix potential is real. The models disagree on severity, so err on the side of caution and don't count on Monday being a smooth commute. If you're in the Northeast New England, Mid-Atlantic, keep working on that blizzard cleanup. Watch the ice potential for Tuesday like a hawk. And start thinking seriously about flood-prone areas near you because that snowmelt next week is going to come fast and it is going to be significant. If you're in the South and Central Plains, you're in the warmest, calmest part of the country right now. And honestly enjoy it, but start dusting off your severe weather plan. Because by March 5th through 10th, that calm is going to give way to one of the more active, severe weather windows we've seen this year. And if you're on the West Coast, it's going to get wetter and more active through the weekend. The mountains are going to see big snow. Give those mountain passes some serious respect. And know that the energy building along your coast right now is what's powering all these downstream weather events across the rest of the country. Now, stepping way back for just a moment because I want to give you the big picture here. The thing that ties all of this together, because I think it's actually a pretty remarkable moment in the weather calendar and it deserves to be said plainly. What we are watching right now is the atmosphere doing what it does at the end of every winter. It's fighting itself. It's rebalancing. It's trying to drag spring into an atmosphere that still has a lot of cold air bottled up in Canada. And that fight is never clean. It's never quiet. And it never goes smoothly for the people who live underneath it. February 2026 ended with a historic nor'easter that buried the Northeast, and now March is about to kick off with a dramatic pattern flip, a severe weather season opener, and a snowmelt flooding risk all happening at the same time, in different parts of the same country. This is the first 2 weeks of March doing exactly what they've always done. They're the most volatile 2 weeks of the entire meteorological year, the stretch where winter and spring arm wrestle for control, and where the atmosphere produces some of the most memorable and dangerous weather of the whole year. And that's exactly why tomorrow's forecast is going to look completely different from today's, because by tomorrow, we're going to have updated model runs on the Tuesday ice threat for the Northeast, updated severe weather guidance from the SPC for next Wednesday, and a clearer picture on that Ohio Valley freezing line for Sunday night. You're going to want to be here for that update, not because I'm trying to keep you coming back, but because if you live in any of the areas we talked about today, tomorrow's information is genuinely going to change what decisions you make for next week. So, before you go, 2 things I want from you. Number 1, drop your city in the comments right now if you haven't already. Tell me what it looks like outside your window today, and tell me what specific question you want me to answer tomorrow, because I will get to it. And number 2, the question I genuinely want you to answer, and I read every single comment: are you on Team Early Spring? Or are you secretly hoping winter has one more good snow in it before it finally calls it quits for the year? Because based on what the models are showing me right now, you might actually get both answers depending on where you live, and that, right there, is the kind of weather season that reminds you why paying attention to the forecast actually matters. Hit that like button if this breakdown helped you understand what's coming for your area. Every like genuinely helps us reach more people who need this information before the next system hits. And that matters more to me than the algorithm. I promise you that. Subscribe and ring that notification bell, not because we're chasing numbers, but because the next 72 hours are going to see new updates on every single storyline we covered today. And you don't want to be catching up after the fact when it's already hitting your city. We're going to be tracking the Sunday-Monday Midwest snow and ice event, the Tuesday wintry mix threat for the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic, the severe weather corridor building across the Central Plains for next week, and the snowmelt flooding risk that's quietly developing for New England. That is a lot of weather happening all at once, and every single one of those events deserves specific, detailed, honest forecasting, not hype, not fear-mongering, just straight talk about what's coming, when it's coming, and what it means for where you live. That's what we do here. That's what we're going to keep doing, so stay weather aware, stay a step ahead, and drop that city in the comments right now because I am genuinely waiting to hear from you.